It has been a hot minute since I have filmed a video. I forget how to do this. Okay. Hey, what's up? Hello everyone, it's Marissa here. I have some super exciting stuff to share about my life right now. If you don't know me, hi. I am currently a college student, and this semester I am studying abroad in the city of Barcelona, which is so crazy exciting, and I'm constantly pinching myself that I'm actually here. It is currently February, so I've been here since beginning of January, so it's been over a month, and it's been an amazing experience so far. And I really just wanted to sit down and talk about it a little bit and give some advice to people who are considering doing a semester abroad, because I personally was pretty overwhelmed in deciding where to go, what the best program was, stuff like that. So this video is particularly gonna be like how to choose your study abroad program and why I picked Barcelona. To jump right into it, I have a little list right here of things to think about when choosing where you're gonna study abroad, because it's a great experience and I really encourage y'all to look into it. Okay, so the first thing to look at is the program. So I go to school at Indiana University, and one thing that made it really appealing for me to go there is because we have a ton of different programs, and some of them are partnerships and some of them are exchanges, and this is a little bit confusing. So some of them go through a company that basically helps set up the exchange, and they're under the names IES or CIEE. So you guys can do research on those, but they basically just help the universities kind of set up all that stuff, because it's a lot of work figuring out how to accommodate all these students in this other country. For me, I was interested in an exchange program, and I can talk about that with my other points, but there's a lot of reasons why this was interesting to me. Again, as I said, there's just like a lot of options, so make sure you're like learning about them as early as you can too, and like meeting with a study abroad advisor, because it's a big decision to make and it's kind of complicated and confusing sometimes. Okay, so now that I explained the program setups, the first thing I would honestly think about when picking an abroad program is the language of the country that you're going to. So for me, I picked Barcelona for a lot of reasons, but the language piece is really important to me. In high school, I studied French, so 4 years, and then also in junior high, so a long time, and I loved it. But then in college, I decided to switch to Spanish just because I was really interested in connecting with that part of my identity. I wanted to switch, I wanted to change, and a new challenge, so I started taking Spanish classes. I wouldn't say my Spanish is super good or anything, but that really gave me some flexibility of where I wanted to pick to go abroad, because I do have a bit of background with both of those languages. And Barcelona is so interesting because here they not only speak Spanish, but they also speak Catalan, a very unique language, and it isn't just a mix of Spanish and French, but it has a little bit of like aspects of like Portuguese and Italian to it, and it's just, that was just so appealing about the city to me, is that I could kind of see both of those languages come together here, and that's one of the reasons I picked Barcelona. But for other people, I think it's really appealing to pick like Australia or somewhere in the UK or something, because they do speak English. And honestly, I would really think about it if you're gonna pick going to a country that doesn't speak English, if you don't have any background or experience. Like, I think if I was coming to Barcelona and I didn't know any Spanish, it would be really challenging. Another thing too is like a lot of programs do have language requirements, and for me, some of my classes are taught in Spanish, so of course I need to know Spanish. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is reputation of school. Not everybody will really think about this, but I just thought I would throw it in there. It's one of the reasons why I picked this exchange program. But 9 of us from IU are attending the ESADE Business School here in Barcelona, and then 9 people from ESADE are back at Indiana. So it's an even exchange, and ESADE is actually a really good business school, like around the world, not even just in Europe. That just was something really interesting to me, and I now have access to that, you know, Alumni Network and, you know, all these things, which I think is really special. And if you have an opportunity to go to a school like that, it's kind of crazy. I know, for example, we have a program that goes to Denmark, and that's like one of the again, like biggest schools not only in Europe but like around the world with reputation. And yeah, that's just something to think about. The next thing I'm going to talk about is accommodations. This is really big because where you're staying, I feel like, just affects obviously like your life so much. So some programs have homestays and others have, you know, apartments, and others have dorms. So you should really think about like what you want your program experience to be. So I'm actually living in an apartment with 3 other girls who all go to IU as well, and I really like this setup because, as I said, my classes are in Spanish. I feel pretty immersed in the culture, even though I don't have that homestay aspect. But I know my friend, for example, is in Sevilla, which is another city in Spain, and she's at a homestay, and she absolutely loves it. It's very different because her host mom will cook for her, but for me, I have to cook my own meals. So it's just something to really think about, like what you're comfortable with and how immersed you want to be. Okay, and then the biggest one, I was like thinking about talking about this first, but I could go on about it forever, is the cost of your program. Studying abroad is no joke, so expensive, but it can be made affordable. For me, since I'm an exchange, I don't pay ESADE tuition, I pay IU tuition since it's an exchange, and that has helped me out so much because I have scholarships that basically cover my IU tuition. You can get scholarships otherwise. I can talk about that in a different video or something, but yeah, you have to look at the cost. If I was doing the CIEE program in Barcelona, I would be paying probably like double to almost triple of what my IU tuition was, which just like wasn't feasible for me. So really look at those numbers. Your school hopefully will give you like a spreadsheet that like shows you, you know, tuition, food, room and board, and like really lay it out for you. Okay, the next thing is weather. So I'm from the Midwest and it is cold and brutal in the winter. And so I really wanted to go somewhere that was warm. Spain is super warm, like it's gorgeous outside today, probably like 70s. So that was important to me. You can also think about like scenery. Like in the Midwest is very flat and there's not, you know, too much going on there. But so for example, some of my friends, they really wanted to go to Vienna because they are right by the mountains, they're by the Alps, they can go skiing, there's all this nature stuff to do, so there's a lot to like think of. The next thing I'm going to talk about a little bit is location of your country or program and its proximity to other countries. At my school, it's just very traditional for someone to go to Europe because they can do a ton of weekend trips for a decently cheap price. I talked to so many people who went abroad in a country in Europe and then they were able to visit like 6 to 9 countries, I feel like was like the average, and that's awesome. But I would still not underestimate other programs such as, you know, Australia, for example. I follow a few girls on Instagram who are abroad there and they are going to like Bali on the weekend and New Zealand and stuff like that. This person I follow who's in Singapore, like they've been able to go around Asia a bit, and I don't know how much that costs, but like either way you'll still be able to do some weekend trips and stuff like that. And also like being able to get to really know the country you're staying in, I think is super special. It is something to think about, but I wouldn't just pick Europe just because you can go to all these different countries. So the next thing I want to talk about is like people and connections. And again, I do not think you should pick your program based on where your friends are going, where maybe your like girlfriend or boyfriend is going. Like you need to pick this experience for you because this is such a big time for self-growth. Like maybe you can think about those a little bit, but all the people that I live with here are like go to IU, and one of the girls actually I went to high school with. So it was nice to know people here. But our program is relatively small. As I said, there's only 9 people from IU, but in Barcelona there's like a couple hundred of us from other programs. I feel like that's a more unique case, but it's nice because then I can meet up with a lot of people and like to have that homey feeling, as well as get to know a lot of new people. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is culture, which I feel like is super self-explanatory, but you really want to make sure you're going somewhere that you're gonna mesh well with. I mean, it should be a challenge, like it should be, you know, not super easy and like you click right away. I mean, if it does, good for you, but you will have like a lot of things to get used to going to this new place. I would encourage you to like look up the country and their customs, and like here, for example, it's like very laid back compared to London probably, where it's a little bit more of like a go 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 culture. But I'd also encourage you to think of like safety as well. I have a friend who's Asian who went to Italy and had some comments about, you know, obviously her ethnicity, and I think that's really tragic, and obviously that's to speak to all Italians, but especially for like people of color and minorities, it's like really important to make sure you're going somewhere where you're gonna feel safe and comfortable, especially since you're going for a whole semester, and that's a long time to be somewhere if you're not feeling safe. That's just my last piece of advice. Okay, I've been talking literally so long, but I hope this was helpful. These are all things too you can talk about in your essays when you're applying to your program and to scholarships and stuff like that. Even if you're in high school already thinking about this, I hope you're excited because it's such a fun time, and I just feel so privileged and thankful that I'm here in Europe and, you know, struggling and thriving. It's a fine line. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.